Okay, so welcome to the session. Now we are formally starting. So let me introduce our guest speaker today, Mr. Alex Blumentals. Alex is the systemic architect at S2S Reactor Riga in Latvia, and he actually worked in multiple areas, including entrepreneurship, collaboration, augmented intelligence systems. But he has a lot of new ideas and new ways of things, which even sometimes I don't understand some of them. So we have to actually hear to him directly. He is also involved in different initiatives, particularly in complex systemic issues. And also, important thing is he's like a versatile manager, researcher, and professional. Work in many countries in Europe. Mr. Alex Blumentals. Alex is the systemic architect at S2S Reactor Riga in Latvia, and he actually worked in multiple areas, including entrepreneurship, collaboration, augmented intelligence systems. But he has a lot of new ideas and new ways of things, which even sometimes I don't understand some of them. So we have to actually hear to him directly. He is also involved in different initiatives, particularly in complex systemic issues. And also, important thing is he's like a versatile manager, researcher, and professional. Work in many countries in Europe, South Africa, Latin America, and the United States. So he has a business management degree like you, and also master's. He is doing his PhD in systemic change to regenerative systems. I don't understand some of these terms, so I will hand over to Alex to talk to you directly. Alex, it's your time. Meantime, maybe you can also, Graham and Nobimi can introduce, and Kalia also join now. So you can introduce very briefly about yourself, where you are connected from, and then we can continue. We start with Graham. Graham, unmute your mic and speak.
Graham, I think Chaminda asked you to introduce yourself and so.
Okay, hello everyone. I am Graham. I am in Spain, although I was born in Scotland. I'm here today as a supporter of S2S. I've known Alex for almost 7 years, I think. And I'm a supporter of this work and of Alex because I believe that it's an idea for the moment. It really is. The essence for me is to be able to create a city-scale prototype so that it's not films or documentaries or computer graphics or models. It's a lived-in experience that you can directly see with your own eyes and live in. So I'll say no more. That's enough.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Who is next? Okay. I think Abeli.
Hi, my name is Lelda. I know Alex probably for like a year now, or a little bit over a year. I actually met Alex when I was still living in London, and I'm originally from Latvia, and I support Alex, and I really love the work that he's doing, and I want to be part of it.
Okay, thank you very much. It's really amazing to see the global people connected in my class. We are also talking about global collaboration. Welcome. Kaya, I don't know. Jensen, Kaya, right? You have to mic and speak. Kaya. I unmute you.
Hello.
Yes, go ahead.
Hi, I'm Kaya. I'm also from Latvia, and I met Alex probably two or 3 months during our first S2S Reactor event in Riga, and I found it really amazing to see all those people with future ideas and willingness to build something better for the future, for the city. And I'm happy I'm in the team of the people who will be building it further.
Okay, thank you. Kaya, now can you see, do you have video? Because we don't see you.
I can't use video right now, sorry.
That's all right. Hitsiri, are you there?
Yes, finally I got in. I think there are 2 links you have sent. So as a result of that, when I go on the link you have sent, it says you are at a different meeting.
Okay, you can switch on the video? We don't see you.
Yeah, I can switch on the video. Yeah, I did that. I can see your classroom.
Okay, great. Right.
And now I am connected, but this is using our friend in S2S Reactors link.
Okay. Anyway, you are connected, so it's good. And for your information, so actually Graham is the one who introduced me to Zoom technology. But let me repeat again. Now, when you get disconnected after 40 minutes, we get disconnected. So please come back by clicking the same URL. So we'll be connected back second time for the second time to the same URL. So when the session finished, because this is a free version, so you have to reconnect back with the same URL for the same meeting. Okay, over to you, Alex. It's your time, and you can share the screen and start your talk.
All right. Thank you, Chaminda. Thank you for the invitation. It's a pleasure to be here with you guys today, and really interested to discuss with your class the things we're doing and how they might apply or be useful for you guys in Sri Lanka. So I will just share my video to quickly show a 4-minute video of the first event that we did.
If you can speak a little bit louder, I don't know if it's possible. It will be better because we have people also sitting at the back. I forgot to ask them to come and sit at the front. So
that's a good idea. Come and sit closer to the front.
Yeah, you come. Yeah, otherwise, so it's not nice for our recording also. It's like empty class. But you can go ahead.
All right. If I can do anything for the audio.
Our guys are a little bit shy about the future.
It's at full blast on my side. Okay, so what I will do is I will show a 4-minute video of the first event because some people are talking there.
Okay.
And this might give you an idea of what was happening. And then we will have a presentation, okay? So I'm going to share my screen.
Chaminda, did you report something? It's okay, it's okay. No, it's okay. Volume of what So we have about 25 people in the class, and it's a big class, so they sit in different places.
Hello?
Yeah, Alex, your mic get muted. I don't know why.
Yeah, sorry, I missed. Yeah, okay. So I was trying to share the video, and my computer kind of, but it should be okay now.
Okay. Something about a muddy. Yeah.
Can you see my?
Yeah.
Can you see my screen?
Yeah, we can.
Yes.
Okay. Cool.
Sound system is available. Computer. Okay. Sorry for the inconvenience, but this is normal when you are working with field electronics. I don't give up, huh? So let me connect him. Yes, Kaya, welcome. Now I have the control. Let me good. So we are connected. Please wait. I will have to reconnect back.
Where's Alex? Where's Alex?
Is Alex back?
Oh, Alex just logged on, I think. I can see him.
Okay. Yes, yes. Okay, good. Alex, are you back? Hello? Alex, we hear you now. You can speak. Let me, I think Alex is looking for something. Event. I want to show the screen, the video here he was trying to show. So maybe I will play it here.
Yes, can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry about that. I think the computer froze. I couldn't do anything with it.
Alexandria in Egypt was the point of confluence of the knowledge of the Arab world, the Middle East, and so on. And we believe that today we have all knowledge we need to live as we want, as we world and sustainability requires. And everything is available. We just need to bring it together. The difficulty is that, as with anything, is that if we bring it together by parts, it doesn't work. But as it is, please hold in my hand, which is three things that we need one piece. When we actually are able to bring pieces together and make them work in a short time, we achieve this wonderful effect of people co-creating, collaborating in ways that are not possible in the normal form of gatherings that we are used to.
And that is the kind of what we're doing here over the 3 days. I think that that is going to lead us to the city of the future. It's going to be the way of working in the future where we're in a collaborative environment, using tools that help us think big and work across very complex systemic problems. So this is a prototype of how I think that the city of the future will be reached, and we'll be using this kind of process for a long, long time.
So we have this word civilization, and civilization means of the city. The root is the city. And so we think of our lives and civilized people, including the people of the city, and we put that in opposition to nature. So for me, the future of the city is where we are no longer civilized, where we are no longer people of the city, because we don't actually hold an opposition between the city and the natural world. So that becomes something that's really necessary. Future cities, to me, are definitely cities that are built on a commons government basis that everybody can understand and be involved in. And it's going to be a digital version of government that is much more inclusive and enables people to be empowered more in the things that they care about. Hopefully, all of the things they care about that happens within their city. And it's going to use a lot of tools that we used to. I mean, so many tools that we all use on our cell phone, down, power, do so many different things, but actually not the things that affect our lives in those meaningful ways. So I see emerging technology using those tools to actually, the same kind of tools that we're familiar with and that we thrive on, that we spend all of our time on our phone, to actually be empowering us within our city, within our government, within our groups and organizations that we care about, that provide for ourselves and for others in our community. Hi, my name is Anton Shanko. What I see here in Scotland here in Riga is a real opportunity to experiment with different combinations of states, different combinations of service, and to bring together some of the coolest people in Latvia into one place. And that's very exciting to see. And they renovated this wonderful space, and they're activating it this week. And I'm really thinking about all these things that really bring people together around art, around music, around food. And I think this is a great starting point. And then the challenge is to see how this translates into the future city. How do you build the heart and then build the housing around it? And that, I think, is a very smart approach. But one of the key questions that I would, or challenges that I would make, is to really think about how you bring experience design into the process. Really think about places that are working for us and that help to build relationships. We can actually prototype how all the common understanding comes in one piece, and people really got the things that previously was unknown.
Okay, so I answer. So back to you, Alex. So we watched the video.
Yes, I am aware. I think the computer crashed when I tried to put the links together.
Yeah. You can go ahead.
Okay.
Share the screen now.
Okay, I'm doing that. You have disabled my screen sharing.
Yeah, yes, exactly. But give me a minute because we have some other problems.
You need to enable my screen sharing.
Okay, maybe I go switch it on. Yeah, now you can go ahead. Yes, share the screen, please. I had enabled, huh? I disabled you. All right, now okay. So you can also control who share the screen, myself or one person or one person.
Yeah, now I can.
I take the opportunity to teach these guys how to use Zoom. Okay. We see your screen, but not the PowerPoint. You have to go to PowerPoint.
It's coming up, I think.
Yeah. Okay. Okay.
There it is.
Right. Yes. But you have to speak a little bit louder again.
Yes. Just a second. Technology is great, but it's not always working, huh?
Exactly. I think it's our problem. There are different technological standards and stages.
It's tedious for your classroom to watch all this technological slow start. So it's taken us, just to realize, it's taken us like 20 minutes to get started.
Exactly. Now, right. Now we are in the full screen. You see your pictures, everything. Yeah, you can start. Yes. But only 30 minutes max. How long you can give now?
All right. Okay, so the topic today is city-scale prototyping. And the question we want to answer is if we can actually start building the place, like Graham said, where we can experience the future city now as a lived-in experience. And the place where we're starting is in Riga. So for you who don't probably know, this is in Northern Europe. And the circle that we have made here is an 850-kilometer circle around Riga. And that line goes through Oslo, Berlin, Kiev, and Moscow. So this is kind of in the northern part of Europe. So this area is, I want to make some little comparison. So you can see the map on the right, you can discern the rest of Europe. But let's say if we compare Latvia to Sri Lanka, is about exactly the same size. And it has 14 times less people than Sri Lanka. So we're currently like 1.6 million people. But if we compare if we compare it to the whole Nordic Baltic region, we are actually 15 times bigger in territory and about only 1.5 times as many people, so 32 million people. So you can see that we are a lot less concentrated in terms of occupation of territory. And you can see a few numbers about the economy that may give you an idea. So in terms of economy, Latvia is 5 times smaller than Sri Lanka, and it is on a per capita basis about 2.5 times richer. Now, what's quite interesting is that if you look at the energy usage of the region, I mean, we are consuming 7 times per capita more electricity than people in Sri Lanka. But if we look at the whole Nordic Baltic region, so this is a lot of energy spent in Sweden and Norway, the average person spends 30 times more electricity than the person in Sri Lanka. And the region as a whole consumes 45 times more energy than Sri Lanka does. So you can see that the wealth that is generated is a lot. It's a lot more, but with not so many more people. But the energy consumption is a lot higher. Now, a couple of the issues that affect us are, demographic. So the first one, this is a combined index of 10 factors, and you can see on the map everything that's red and pink is basically saying that there are vulnerabilities. What vulnerabilities means here is that because of age, structure, natural population change, gender balance, and migration, these areas have, let's say, complexities in how they can be managed. So the safer areas are where there is no red and orange, and that's normally around the big cities. So it's where Oslo is, where Helsinki is, and in the case of Riga, I mean, this is Riga here. You see, there's no red around here, but the rest of Latvia is all pink and red. Okay, so, oops, I'm going the wrong direction. And if we dive into one of these vulnerabilities, which is age, you see the blue colors indicate where we have passed the critical threshold, where the percentage of people above or in this age bracket between 55 and 64 is higher than the critical threshold. And you can see that the majority of the municipalities in the region have way too many old people, or, well, they're not too old, but I mean, they are regarded as a vulnerability for some reason. So the whole area, the Nordic area, is characterized by a population that is getting older. We call it the silver tide, because there never has been in history so many people of this age. Like in the sum of whole history until now, in the last 10,000 years, there's never been so many people above 60 years of age living on planet Earth. So the next question is why should we worry about making city-scale prototypes? And the reason is that we have been holding, let's say, we have been watching the evolution of many trends for several generations, and the cumulative effect of those trends, we see it's actually affecting many of our ideas about how development can happen. So we see that not everything is good. There are side effects, and if we look at it, oh man, this is so trend. So what we see is that the planetary boundaries of the atmosphere, the ocean, the use of natural resources, the phosphorus pollution, everything is kind of overshooting the limits of the planet. And if we simply monitor and try to react to those things, it is too slow, and we are kind of forced to look for a new type of method to anticipate what's going to happen. We cannot plan based on what is happening already, but we need to think in a different way. And we have all these trends. So we, as Ray said in the video, I mean, we are facing this dichotomy of civilization versus nature. And this cannot continue. We have to integrate nature in our development ideas. We've been managing health as a disease control or disease curing approach, but we have to move towards a more holistic understanding of health, and you know, in particular, because we're seeing older people in our region, we see that it's not only a matter of how many years you live, but what is the quality of the life in those years. And we realize that health is it's more than just doctors that cure diseases, but it is about how to create healthy environments and healthy ways of life. Growth versus fairness. I mean, this idea that wealth concentrates in a few people or few companies, and that there's an extractive economy that is, you know, it's leading to a polarity in society that we see in the, you know, types of elections that we see in the United States and Brexit in the UK and other parts of the world. And we have the tension between trying to solve, like you watch the video of, you know, the Industrial Revolution 4.0 before this talk, and there's a lot of talk about technology, but there's not enough talk about, you know, regeneration. I mean, everything that we've done to nature will not come back because we invent new gadgets or robots or something like this. We need to think deeper to address the negative trends that we have generated in nature. And this has to do with changing possibly our overall economic model from an ownership and consumption model towards an access model. We simply cannot continue. Let's say, if we look at the numbers that I showed initially, let's say if you have an economy that consumes 45 times more energy than Sri Lanka does, well, how does Sri Lanka achieve the level of life and well-being that is maybe available in Sweden? Well, it cannot be done with the same model. There's simply not enough energy in the world to do that. Then we have the question of war and peace. I mean, we are, you know, very much guided by investments in war. And we spend trillions on that, but we rarely ask the question, how do we invest in peace? How do we create actually the conditions to solve the above problems? And finally, you know, we have to ponder the relative value of, let's say, a narrow set of principles like financial, you know, we are used to this, but is it enough? I mean, is it enough to measure everything in our return on investment, or should we actually look at a broader measure of value that considers the whole human experience? So, and the answer we propose is that all these things, nature, health, fairness, regeneration, access, peace, and people, they all need to be brought together in a anticipatory design culture. And the question we have to ask ourselves is, why now? And I reference this in the video to say, well, we are in this moment in history when all the technologies, all the ideas, all the discussions are existing, everything has been tested, and we are in a position where we can actually bring it together in one place and make this kind of experimental city where we can, you know, live it as a real experience. And this is a short list of, I'm kind of rushing through this because I realize that we are late. It's almost 11 o'clock, and we had 1 hour, so true. But I mean, you all can see that this is not something theoretical. I mean, we have these ideas about local food production. We have all the technology to make clean energy and clean water, local manufacturing, light electric mobilities, recycling, and also things that enable our business models like cooperative, maker, and consumer organizations that are capable of providing a different type of business model than what we are used to in terms of single companies trying to dominate markets and so on. And you know, from this list, one thing that stands out for Sri Lanka is, you know, the whole idea of seasteading, that is occupying the ocean. Is, let's say, we are still hunter-gatherers when it comes to the ocean, and well, we know that the possibility of farming the ocean and even living on the ocean is actually in our hands today. I mean, it is something that we can test, and we have shown already that it is enormously productive, and it can help to recycle refuse from the city and live off, you know, in symbiosis with high density areas like in Sri Lanka. Yes, so there's many projects that are available, and if we can combine them in one place and, you know, have multiple teams doing them at the same time, then we think that it is possible to actually create the conditions for what a city of the future could be right now. We don't have to wait for you know, a 2050 or 2030 future to experience it. So you saw this picture. This is the building where we are conducting our prototype. So this is an old manufacturing facility. So roughly about 2,000 square meters and 40,000 square meters of land. And what we want to do with the reactor is to actually implement this anticipatory design, which has been tested in previous versions of this type of structure in various parts of the world over 40 years. So it's not something new, but it is the first time that we are trying to apply it on systemic problems. And the systemic problems that we're dealing with are such that they require a face-to-face economy. So there's a critical value of these types of collaboration environments. It is, you know, changing the focus from thinking of people and places and physical structures as overhead, but to think about the place as something that enables a bottom line impact. So it's not a nice to have building, it's not a nice to have process for collaboration, but it is actually a process that is indispensable to unlock human potential, to change how our workflow happens. And we believe that the impact this can have on productivity and creativity is very, very large. For individual companies, for multiple companies working together, and of course for the city as a whole. And next to that is the fact that because we're losing all these jobs to you know, automation and robots and globalization and so on, we need to work in the sense of creating a new type of occupation that recognizes that decentralized, distributed economies are the direction where things are going. So we need to, empower this human or humane enterprise, focusing on this collaborative capacity of people, and realizing that the challenge is a systemic one, and that this is not something that we can do internally in our own companies, because internally we are limited by narrow goals and we cannot change the overall system. So that's why also the reactor is a great place for bringing together like the whole supply chain, bring the customers, bring the institutional stakeholders all in one place to actually be able to address the systemic challenges. And the last point I wanted to make was that, you know, this is bringing us to the craft economy. So like in old times where people learn by doing and you become an expert by adopting knowledge that already exists and you innovate it in the context of your own challenges to create new explicit knowledge. So in other words, you know, the Alexandria moment is possible because we don't have to reinvent everything, but we have to bring it all together, contextualize it, and code it in the terms of the needs of our own society. So when I showed you the comparison of Sri Lanka with Latvia or the Nordic region, you see the differences are huge and the trends are the same. So it's about taking those trends and, you know, collating them and making them inform the work of the collaborative group that you are dealing with. Yes, so this is the short of it. And let's say in practical terms, what it means is that we move away from a linear model of implementing things, and we use, you know, we design systems that are permanently living in a feedback loop. So this is a picture of Agile. So this is how we think. So the whole process is designed as an Agile learning community where we constantly are building, testing, developing, deploying, and iterating. And this allows us to move progressively from, let's say, if you're thinking about an organization or a city, well, it will start with a core group of people learning it, then developing teams and multiple diverse projects. And these will lead then to an ecosystem of diverse ventures. So if you ask me what is the biggest difference between the reactor and a normal incubator, is that the focus here is about creating a whole ecosystem of ventures, not just one project or one company or isolated projects or companies, even if there are many, but of interrelated projects that create a whole ecosystem. And this is what makes possible the, you know, transformation of a city scale environment. So, you know, for that transformation to stick, there need to be changes on multiple levels. And that's kind of a fundamental idea of the reactor. Now, just to conclude and go to questions, at the end of the day, I mean, this was one of the summary slides of the first event we had a month ago. Somebody wrote, okay, at the end of it, I mean, this is three simple things to remember. And it is about, you know, doing things in a way that feel good to people. You know, if we do this collaboration space and we are working together and creating our sustainable living together, then we have a workable model. And that's kind of where we're at. I mean, we are at the beginning of the reactor's life, and we're still working on fixing physically the infrastructure and so on. But essentially, we're looking at it as an infrastructure that's in the city where people can come together in different types of events. So daily events that are lasting 1 hour or 2 hours that are, you know, open to everybody in the society, to company events that are trying to solve specific issues of companies, but they are all happening inside like a big planning space where all the issues are helping everybody else understand their own issues and then together coming into like a big platform project. So, you know, this is in a short way. Sorry about the technical difficulties we've had. and the rushed way of presenting it. But I wanted to ask you, well, let's open the floor to conversation, and if we have any time left, because I realize we overshot our time by quite a bit.
No, I think we have some time, about 10 minutes, 10, 15 minutes. So thank you very much, Alex. So you can maybe unscreen your screen, unshare. And yeah. So we have our guys here and some guys connected online. But we have 10 minutes to finish the session. I think we can finish by 10 minutes. So I think I would first ask my audience if you have any questions or clarification questions to ask. I can repeat the question. Did you follow what's going on? Yeah, so,
sorry.
Yeah.
You were asking something. Sorry, I couldn't.
I was asking from the class if there are any questions. Any questions about future city prototyping? They already have one. So what do you mean by practical? You have to be specific, yeah. So Alex, the question is now one gentleman is asking how practical to have such kind of prototyping when people are busy, people are working in normal life. So how easy to duplicate or practice this as a reactor?
Well, I think the whole idea is that everybody in normal life can do it. So our idea is that, for example, let's say we're asking, one of the outputs of the first event was that we said, well, we need a system for managing living systems, and we want to have. And this is not something we invented. So in Brazil, in Curitiba, the mayor of the city was running every day in the morning 1 to 2 hour session where everybody from the city could come and discuss their topics. So there would be topics that are predefined, and some topics are created during the session, but they're done with a certain conversation protocol, and the result of that is like you come discuss in this particular way your normal day-to-day issues, and then you go to your job and you do your job. And the objective of the session is not to make decisions, but it is for people to start having the deeper conversations, talk about the real problems, and then when they go back to their jobs, their thinking is different. So they're applying their participation in the reactor type of conversation. They're applying it to their day-to-day job, and I think this can be done anywhere.
So, for example, it's like working guys coming and doing MBA for the weekend. So you can go to the reactor or the space and then have a discussion. Any more questions? And this is not the first one, so there has been a lot of such kind of communities.
So, I mean, what the main objective of this type of space is that you change the structure of how you communicate and participate. So instead of sitting in rows like you're sitting now, instead of listening to one person like you're listening to me, you're actually in one co-creation space where you're together defining your problems, your issues, your solutions, and you're making it as you go along. So this is the craft 2.0. It's something that you need to do by practice, not by listening. We learn very little by listening to other people.
Okay, more questions or comments? If you want to ask a question, the only other Sri Lankan guy connect online.
Well, I was trying to understand what is the S2S reactor.
Not audible enough. You will speak louder.
Okay. Can you hear me now?
Little bit,
Yes, I can.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. So I was trying to understand what S2S reactor was. I think I have some idea now. This is in marketing, we call it marketing research. I know Gillette ran sort of a some kind of a customer feedback collection where people could go there in the morning, do the shaving while they are being observed and while they are being recorded, and then when they go back, Gillette analyzed that, and then they knew exactly what were the issues, what were the problems of using whatever the razors or creams or whatever that is necessary. So similarly, we are going into a much broader situation where extending that concept to living cities or living settlements, and trying to understand what are the real issues of human beings, what we face today, and trying to find the best solutions. That is the rough understanding I got by viewing this or listening to this. So my own imagination also included. And I think what we need to really is, in a country like ours, like Alex pointed out, where the population densities are extremely high compared to the European countries, we need to be actually very, very analytical and scientific in identifying the best ways for the human beings to live and best ways to preserve the environment, and also for us to have our own food and our own drinking water and our own energy sources, because we have much more solar energy than so I know in Finland there is a day there's no sunshine at all.
Okay.
We don't have anything like that.
3 minutes left. I want you to quickly finish, and then Alex to answer, and then I have to thank him. So sorry for that. Okay. I should be finishing within 3 minutes. Alex, you want to answer?
Yes, I mean,
yeah, what we may have to do is something special, customized for our situation, taking from this example of S2S reactor and generate something, and probably we'll have to look for our own solutions.
Okay, so thank you, Gitsi. Now, Alex, you can answer. Before I will thank you, because sometimes get disconnected. So thank you very much for all of you joining. Alex, you can answer, and then we will be finished.
All right. Thanks, guys, for having us here, and sorry about the boring technology issues. Kitsiri, yes, you are entirely right. I mean, you have a huge density of population, and you are using resources in a very intensive way. So, I mean, the value that a reactor would bring to you because it allows you to work in these feedback loops in a much more denser way, you should be able to figure out far more efficient ways of achieving your objectives with the resources you have. And yes, your analogy is quite good with the observing, etc. Except that in the case of the reactor, there is no observer. Everybody is an agent. I mean, the whole objective is that everybody who participates in the process is an agent of transformation. There's no outside scientist observing the people doing things. It's everybody who's coming into the room. The whole room, the protocol of interaction is designed so that everybody becomes an active participant. And so the goal of that reactor is that, let's say, within 2 years, 5 to 10% of the whole population have actually gone through it. You know, so that at that point, you know, it has a critical mass and it's kind of expanding, and it has satellites, and you know, it starts to reproduce the way of working and thinking. It's a kind of out loud thinking process where we learn to communicate in a more open way. And this kind of changes our way of imagining possibilities.
You get disconnected now. So thank you very much. Thank you, Alex. Thank you for your valuable contribution. We'll be in touch. This is just the start. And also, I'd like to thank you very much for all of you for joining in this 31st of December. So happy 2018. Ciao.
All right.
Thank you.
Happy New Year.
Thank
Wish
you.
you a happy New Year.
Bye. Okay, so comments.